And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome in to your LSU Football Fix. No drama, just ball tonight. Joined with me as always, except for last week, but always, Zack, publisher at LSU's Country on SportsIllustrated.com. Zack, what's going on, man? We missed you last week.
I know, a lot of travel issues after last week, but doing good on this end. Just getting ready for Columbia, trying to get some South Carolina prep going and work from there. But busy week ahead.
Yeah, man. And look, let me tell you, great to have you back on. I was doing someone else's show where they had their host bail out the other day, and I could just see the struggle as he's pressing the buttons, producing the show, interviewing, talking, and all. It's so hard. People, internal panic. The guy kept his cool. He was really good at the show, actually. I can see the just fluster. It is so difficult, and people do not understand how it is. And look, this goes for like radio guys too, not just like podcast shows like this, man. I can't imagine how these guys bounce from source to source to source, and it looks rough, man. But anyways, that's why I'm so glad you're here. I've got a great comment here from Crying Belly. Preston, your stream is so awesome. Everybody hit the like button, please. Please free my family. Crying, you know the terms. We'll talk about the terms off air. The answer is no, and you know why. But anyways, guys, we're going to talk tonight about got to talk a little bit about Jacoby and Guillory being out for the season. I mean, would you say that outside of Nussmeier, that's like the worst possible injury you could have had this year?
Yeah, I'd double down on that. Still losing Jacoby and Guillory is massive for this team, and Brian Kelly alluded to that today. Is just now you got to rely on some youngsters and throw in somebody like Dominic McKinley and kind of test the waters there. But yeah, nothing much for me to say other than it's a tremendous loss and probably second to Nussmeier. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that. You heard him say kind of, you got to pivot it there. But, we also knew his weaknesses, and he'll tell. I was like, all right, come on, Kelly. Come on. The guy just tore his Achilles. Let's not talk about his weaknesses. Let's hype the man up. But I guess if there's a silver lining there, it's that he may get a medical red shirt. And I mean, I don't see any way how you're not going to need defensive tackles next year too. So there could be a good sign. I'll say this, an Achilles these days is almost worse than an ACL, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. To me, obviously, depending on who the person is, but an ACL could be just like breaking a bone or something. The recovery timetable is long, but you can bounce back fairly quickly. We saw that, unfortunately with John Emery when he bounced back pretty quickly. Prayers up to John, of course. A lot of stuff today with Brian Kelly going on the Feinbaum show and talking about it. But nonetheless, Achilles is tough to bounce back from, no doubt.
And of course, guys, y'all know our show tonight, our title sponsor is Celebrity Theaters. They make everything we do possible. Guys, remember, they have locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston, and they are Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater. Because of that, you're guaranteed to see a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. And of course, the Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games, the largest in town, a bar featuring wine, beer, frozen drinks, and of course, they've got the oversized leather reclining seats, which is a must. And if you're looking for a real big movie to go to, say maybe Beetlejuice or something like that, they've got the Dolby Atmos sound system with 3D sound. All right. And of course, of no small note, this shocked me when they announced it in the middle of the game. I bet you already know where I'm going with this. College Game Day is coming to town in Columbia, right? Yeah, Columbia, South Carolina. I always get Columbus, Ohio, and Columbia, South Carolina mixed up. But anyways, they're coming to South Carolina. Thoughts on that? Were you surprised as I was?
Yeah, I think everybody was pretty surprised about that. It's a relatively weak slate in week 3. But South Carolina's coming off a big win. LSU always kind of brings the juice. So to have those two programs going head-to-head is a big one. LSU obviously hasn't been there in, 16 years? I think Jacques was saying since 2008. So, look, it's a big-time matchup, and now we kind of move on, and College Game Day is going to be in town. It's a big one. I'm excited to see how it turns out. But Columbia's going to be rocking. They have some really good fans, really loyal fan base. So I think it's going to be a packed stadium for a noon kickoff out there.
Did you just say 2008 was the last time LSU went there?
Pretty sure that's what Jacques said earlier. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
you might be able to quote me on it, actually.
That's abhorrent if it's true. I mean, what a joke of a conference, the fact that you can go. I mean, that means that the whole time Texas A&M and Mizzou have been in the conference, LSU hasn't made a single trip to South Carolina. And I think you're right, because I can't remember. I remember a couple trips South Carolina took to Baton Rouge, but my God, what an abysmal rotation of a conference. So I'll say this: College Game Day does add a lot of pressure, but also adds a lot of judgmental national media who will be watching your game now all of a sudden, whereas you might catch a box score. I think a lot of eyes are going to be in Baton Rouge. And frankly, last time a lot of eyes were on LSU, they looked clunky and got beat by USC. By the way, did you notice USC pitched a shutout this week against Utah State?
They did, and I was talking about that with some people earlier today. It's like, look, maybe their just defensive improvement has been that much better, and we kind of overlooked it in week one. So, yeah, notice that. Inferior opponent, but nonetheless, a shutout's a shutout. Can't really, no way around that.
All right, this is the first person to make this comment, and of course it comes from my dad, Simple Country Lawyer, Larry Guy. Your dad likes the new look. Very nice. Hey, Zack. All right, so a little background. On game day, I'm shaving. My trimmer collapses on me, and I'm shaving.
Hold on, is your dad's name Larry?
Yeah, yes, my dad's
name Larry too. Okay.
Oh, that's funny. Larry and Larry. My name is actually Larry. Yeah, fun fact. Yeah, but that's also my dad's name, so I go by Preston. His decision, not mine. So I was trimming, and my guard, which is usually set to like 8 millimeters, collapsed on my face, and I trimmed half my freaking face off. So I was like, well, I guess we're rolling with a goatee for a little while.
Oh, good.
And look, of course, Crying Belly with some Mr. Larry love. Massive fan here. He loves them. All right. So anyways, yeah, I think game day, the outside of national media pressure, that means that stadium is going to be extra rocking. I mean, they're going to, trust me, when game day comes to Baton Rouge, I know there's a little extra oomph to that place. And I'm sure that it's the same deal in Columbia. So get ready for it. And I hope that this angle doesn't have to come into play. But in 2015, South Carolina came to LSU in the midst of flooding in Columbia. Actually, it was really bad. They had to relocate the game. So South Carolina was the home team in Tiger Stadium, and LSU opened them with welcomed them in with open arms, and it was a really heartwarming experience. Of course, LSU now is going to be facing a tropical storm and or hurricane this week, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there isn't no need to return that warm sentiment. So we're going to dive in. We're going to get some Nagy notes here in just a bit, where Nagy goes through all the things he's noticed this week. There's been no shortage of observations to make about this team. Maybe complaints, maybe some nagging. Maybe we get Nagy nagging. That'd be a great segment. How about that? But anyways, and then I've done a film breakdown of LSU's running game. And figure out what's wrong, because it's one of those things where it's tough to kind of point the finger. I think a lot of fans want to say, oh, it's just this one player, or oh, the coach is just calling ball like this, or whatever else. It's usually multifaceted and pretty tough to truly determine. Let's get to some comments though quick before we dive in. Let's see here. Oh, of course, we got to get this out there. Hit like, beat Mike. Hit like on the show tonight, guys. Appreciate it. Helps with all of our analytics and getting things going. So make sure to hit that like button to help boost our show. And of course, we're trying to beat Mike. I think we had an early lead on Mike. I forgot to check last week if we actually beat him out or not, but we were doing really good. Gosh, got Cousin Trey here in the chat. Good evening, Cousin Zack. Best in the business. Appreciate you. He's not actually my cousin. After getting a compliment like that, I need y'all to know we're not actually related. This is not me getting my family up in here hyping me up. I promise. Is there any hope for the defense especially Perk? Will they find a running game? All right, running game. I'm gonna take the RPO here, and I'm gonna keep the handoff. Okay, we'll get to that later. Okay, defense. Zack, what's your thoughts on the defense? Because it's been a mixed bag. Some good, some bad.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, week one, you saw the defensive line kind of show a significant improvement. I loved what the edges are doing. Braden Swinson, Savion Jones. I think they take a lot of pressure off the inside. And obviously, with Jacoby and Guillory out now, you're really going to have to rely on that inside in a big way. But kind of shifting pace and going to look at the secondary, look, you're throwing some youngsters in the fire here. PJ Woodland was a guy who got burnt in week one, gave up a PI, and then he came back and got a pass breakup. And that's the kind of hard that we're going to see from a freshman. Fast forward to week two, he earned the start and forced a fumble. So he's making impactful plays and meaningful snaps. So this is the guy who I like to see. Deshaun Spears is a guy who's going to be a key contributor moving forward. So kind of not trying to skate around the question here, but the defense, there's room for improvement times a million. But you're going to start to see that sooner rather than later, especially with the shifts that they're making, specifically in the secondary with Sage Ryan moving back to the safety position, which is his natural position. So improvements on the horizon, it's just a matter of finding that continuity.
Yeah, and look, man, I'll say this just to briefly touch on the other side of that, Trey. If you had to ask me which one I feel will more easily be rectified, the running game or defense, I think the answer is the running game based on what I saw on film, and I'll reveal that to you in a bit with an in-depth dive. Defense, I think to get defense where it really needs to be, you're going to have to rely on a lot of young guys stepping up, right? Like a lot of young guys are going to have to learn to play football. They're going to have to grow up and become men in front of our eyes. And I'm not saying they can't do it because, by gosh, they got talent. There's no doubt about it. But there's certainly a lot of young men there. All right, let's see here. Nope, no more good comments. Just we got Dane Bergeron, who's always been such a great supporter. Good evening to you too, Dane Bergeron. All right, we're going to get to some quick commercials real quick, and then we're going to go dive into the Nagy notes. First off, I got to thank a new sponsor, Rejuvame, for coming on board. So let's hear from them, and we'll be right back.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
Looking to rejuvenate your health? Try Rejuvame Medical. Their expert team offers GLP-1 medications for your weight loss and wellness. Feel your best with Rejuvame. Visit RejuvameMedical.com today. And guys, if you can make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in, if you want to go check them out, we'd be greatly appreciative. Of course, it lets our new sponsors know that their advertising dollars are working well. And of course, guys, I got to thank Struby's for sponsoring the show. We're talking about new sponsors. We keep on growing with these guys. Struby's has decided to come on this year. And guys, one of the things we try to do with all of our sponsors is find people who we know can provide a great experience to our followers and fans, because we've tested them out personally. All TigerBait live shows this year are proudly brought to you by this football season by Struby's Seafood and Steaks. Located at 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in their food and service you're just not going to see from just any corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA Prime Black Angus steaks, 100% certified Wagyu strip. And for those looking something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. And lastly, guys, of course, we have to thank Alumni Hall, my favorite place to shop. Tiger fans, I'm going to tell you the best place to get all your LSU gear this football season. It's at Alumni Hall. Shop their store off of Blue Bonnets in Perkins Row, or shop online at alumnihall.com. They've got it all. Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, Onward Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide hats, Yeti, and more. They've got nice polos you've been looking for. They've got the Yetis. They got LSU baseball gear, which is in now. Shop with all of them, and you can earn rewards on future purchases with their Hall Pass Rewards program. Guys, I've got this discount code to share with you and my friends. So when you shop there, make sure to use the code TigerBait. All one word, TigerBait. in store or online, and you'll get 10% off of your purchase. Go shop with my friends at Alumni Hall and use the code TigerBait to save. All righty. With that being said, it is note time with Nagy. Let him go.
Yeah, look, kind of just starting off with a 2-week assessment of the team. I'm sure there'll be some questions in there about it, but if you got any, definitely shoot them in there. But it's kind of just looking at the defense. And for me, I alluded to it a couple minutes ago, and Preston, I talked about it a little bit as well. But Sage Ryan going back to safety is the best thing that could happen for this defense. He's a guy who was a 5-star coming out of high school, and that's his natural position. So to put him back in a spot where he can make a heavy impact is key. And it also gives an opportunity for PJ Woodland to step in the mix alongside Ashton Stamps, get Zy Alexander back in the mix. You're going to see a lot of changes happening this week. Brian Kelly talked about it today in his press conference. Was really, you're going to see 4 to 5 safeties, and you're going to see 4 cornerbacks play. And those 4 cornerbacks are going to be J.K. Johnson, P.J. Woodland, Ashton Stamps, Zy Alexander. Your 2-deep depth chart has some significant talent there. And for me, I'm intrigued to see what they do when it comes to Zy Alexander's reps, because he played 34 snaps on Saturday. But do you continue to ramp him up, or is he just going to hover around that spot? So what did you see from Preston or what did you see from Zy Alexander on Saturday?
So I thought he played serviceable ball. I think he looks fit and athletic, given how his injuries come off, and we haven't really seen much of him. I think he's got potential to be the best corner on this team, although Ashton Stamps is going to give him a run for his money on that. That being said, I think he's going to be tightly contested between he and PJ Woodland moving forward. I think PJ Woodland's a little leaner, a little longer, but I do think he leaves some things to be desired in terms of like run support. I think Zy is going to be a little better than him than that. So we'll see.
And then I know a lot of people are just sitting back kind of talking about the Harold Perkins role and what do you do with him? Do you keep him there? Some people are even talking about moving him back to star. Kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that too before I do.
I saw some people suggesting it. And I'll be honest, I didn't think of it until someone said it. And I was like, a chaos-causing role, which is what that's meant to be. It's a lot of coverage, though, and it's a lot of, I've noticed, on slot receivers, not like covering the tight end like a true linebacker would be. So that's where I get nervous. I know Pro Football Focus has given Harold Perkins a really high grade in coverage. Right. It makes me nervous, but one thing worth noting about Harold Perkins, he hasn't been an every down backer. So yeah, it's been quiet, but they're rotating West and Weeks brothers in and out a lot. They've got Greg Penn going in. So there's no true like every down backer out there right now. So I think that Harold Perkins is just making role playing tackles right now. He's been a role player and people want him to be a playmaker. And that's where the frustration is coming from. So I guess that's the way to shorten that is, I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't either. It's just, obviously, for right now, the fan base is really just talking about Major Burns and kind of the lack of production there.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it. We talked about it before the season started, a guy who could emerge. And we talked about Javian Toviano. And that's a guy who needs to be on the field. And look,
right.
if things continue to go south with Major Burns, I see no reason why Toviano doesn't step into that star role just to get him on the field. Because that's what you and I talked about, is that's a talented player that you got to get on the field. So if Major Burns just continues to kind of play lackluster football, I don't know why you wouldn't put somebody like Javian Toviano on the field. So kind of just carrying back into the notes and stuff is, for me, it's all highlighted on the defense. I think offensively, you got Garrett Nussmeier as your bread and butter guy. He's got a receiving arsenal that he can work with on a down-by-down basis. The running game will improve, and Preston will get into that in a couple minutes, kind of just talking about how that'll be the case. But defensively is where you're going to really need to see some production ASAP. You have no room for error heading into week 3 against South Carolina. I mean, you have no room for error. So you're going to see 4 cornerbacks get in. You're going to see 4 safeties, 4 or 5 even get in the mix. Your second level is solid. Like you kind of said a minute ago, Harold Perkins, he's going to find his groove. Greg Penn led the team in tackles. I know there's some things that people want to see him do better, but ultimately this is a guy who's a serviceable piece, and he's going to be where the ball is at routinely. Witt and West Weeks are going to do their job, even though I saw West walking out of the stadium with a boot on his foot. You're going to continue to have those 4 guys holding down the second level. So for me, it's really all about defense and working from there. And then my last really tidbit from the first 2 weeks of the season is, look, Zavion Thomas is a game changer. This is a guy who they went out and got in the portal, and he's really living up to the bargain right now. He was a preseason All-SEC candidate as a return special, and he's living up to it right now. So for me, look, I've been impressed with what Xavier Thomas brings this team. Obviously, he's going to start doing a little bit more in the receiving game too. But man, this guy is elite as a return specialist. We saw that in weeks 1 and 2. He should have broken off that first kick return for a touchdown if it wasn't for that shoestring tackle.
Boy.
But look, Xavier Thomas is a guy who's well worth every penny. So first 2 weeks have been brutal in my opinion. Defense has looked a little sporadic. Offense, there's no push at the line of scrimmage. I'm not even going to comment on that because Preston's going to hold that down. But there's been a lot of positives, there's been a lot of negatives. But all in all, I'm really intrigued for week 3. This is where you're going to see if this team's going to be 8-4 or 10-2, 7-5. Like this is going to be really where you see what this team's all about with college game day, going to Columbia on the road, early kickoff. So look, this is going to be where you're going to see what this team's about, and I'm excited to see what they provide.
If this team turns it around to 10-2, that's going to be one of Brian Kelly's better coaching jobs I've seen.
It might be the best of his career, to be honest with you, with the players he's working with.
Because what we're looking at right now is 8-4 or 9-3, right?
Yeah.
And that's with a manageable schedule. So the sad part is there's some things to like about this team. They just don't have that consistency. You know what I'm talking about? Like that, and a lot of that is your running game. Yeah. And by the way, the fact that you're unable to run the ball also hurts your defense as well. So it's one of those football's an interesting sport where everything builds into everything. You know what I mean? And so if there's one cog in the machine, the whole thing is having engine problems. You know, so it's such an interesting situation. You touched on Sage Ryan moving to safety. I mean, that has to be a great move. You have to love that, right?
I love it because it opens up an opportunity for PJ Woodland and Zy Alexander. Look, J.K. Johnson's a guy who still needs to get just over the hump, in my opinion. But moving Sage back opens up opportunities for others, and he's more productive there. He's abysmal in coverage, and we've seen that. And obviously at safety, he's going to drop back in coverage time and time again, but it opens up opportunities for other people. And I'm excited to see that 1-2 punch of Ashton Stamps, PJ Woodland, throws Alexander in the mix too as he continues getting that knee right. I really think you're going to have some serviceable pieces at cornerback, but Sage Ryan was not one of those pieces. So you kind of move on and see what he can do at safety now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, you got any other notes for us, Zach?
No, that's it for me. Obviously, Brian Kelly hit on a lot of stuff today. I talked about a little bit of it, but for me, it's the Jacoby and Guillory news that kind of took a lot of people by storm, and we're going to see what happens there. Do they activate Dominic McKinley? But other than that, we'll get on that later. But not too much from me today. Just some light stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, we're about to go a little nuclear here. We're about to go heavy into this running game here. I do want to touch on something before I do an ad break because we've got a good comment here. S. Young, I think Kelly was telling Sloan to stop running into a stacked box. And, I was looking at the film. I only saw one true stacked box, and it was on the goal line, right? It was like a 3rd and 1 situation, and it was like on the 2-yard line, and they ran it not for a touchdown, but down at the 1, they got the first down. So most of the night, it was a 7-man box. It was just awkward and clunky where one thing would go wrong, and a guy would come unblocked, and then all of a sudden you're blown up. So yeah, you get the feeling, yeah, that was a stacked box. When the reality is, no, you just stunk it up against Nicholls.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, you've got 6 blockers in a 7-man box. That's not a stacked box. That's just football. Like, you're not going to be going against very many 6-man fronts. So yeah, that's the sad part. Brad David, we said no drama, but I guess we'll let a little drama. Have you checked on Brian Driscoll yet? He was trolling after the LSU UNC. Yeah, and what's funny, it was actually his real account. It actually was him, which he was very respectful. So I appreciate that. Like, don't, come up, as another member of the media and be making inappropriate shots. So I have no problems with what he said. But yeah, me and Mike both during an injury timeout made sure to check in on that show and made sure to check in, make sure our Irish compadres were doing well after a tough loss, man. Tough loss, Zach. I was so upset to see Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois.
We were all up in the press box watching that, waiting to see what happened there. Brutal. What do you think about Northern Illinois being ranked now?
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily saw a ranked football team when I
Right.
saw them playing against Notre Dame, but it's one of those things. More and more voters nowadays are kind of giving the bird to the status quo and like saying, I'm
Or
going to
just
rank
recency
teams
bias. Yeah.
based on their resume and what they've accomplished, which is like, okay, well, Notre Dame was the 5th ranked team, and yes, they beat the 5th ranked team, but like, I mean, how do we know Notre Dame wasn't just bad? Look, I was not impressed with that Notre Dame Texas A&M win. I saw a really bad Texas A&M team. Wegman couldn't do anything, so it's like, oh boy, what's even going on there? So now I think they got a little trigger happy there ranking Northern Illinois, but I get it. It's week 2, and who's done much of anything? I mean, if we're gonna rank teams on what they've done, shouldn't you be ranking Texas number 1?
Exactly. That's kind of like my logic towards that. I saw them get ranked, and I was like, "What are we doing here?" But nonetheless, look, shout out Northern Illinois. It gives a lot of LSU
Shout
fan
out.
base something to talk about.
Yeah. Well, look, man, all I got to say is congratulations to Notre Dame as a program. Clearly, they've made some good moves. They had Brian Kelly there, and he just couldn't win the big games there. And now you can't win the big, small, or medium games. So congratulations to Notre Dame. With that being said, let's get to the hot topic du jour. Let's talk about what the heck's going on with this running game, and can they fix it? But first, I do want to thank some important sponsors, guys. I mentioned earlier about how all of our sponsors we like to add people who are going to be locally owned, that we've experienced firsthand, and we know we can endorse to provide an outstanding experience to our listeners. This football season, we're so proud to add Capital Gritty City Grill to that lineup. They fit right in. Located on 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner spot for a casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafoods, and pastas and steaks, with almost everything priced at $30 or below. For an affordable experience, don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win every Sunday morning for brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mike Scarborough went to that yesterday, told me it was fantastic. I can't wait to get on the phone and hear what he had there. Book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net, and make sure to let them know TigerBait sent them in. I'm going to tell you this, guys, their dream cake they have there, I mean, it's out of this world good, man. Unbelievable. Any argument I get in with my wife automatically fixed with a dream cake. Let's hear a little bit from Genesis of Lafayette.
Got a brand new attitude, like bing bang boom on a pink balloon. Like I just do what I wanna do. Like ooh, brand new.
Guys, there's a reason they sell more Genesis than any other dealer in Louisiana. For the very best buyer experience of a new or luxury SUV or sedan, call them today, toll free, to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in. And of course, guys, we begin the show with them tonight, and we're going to end them. They are our title sponsor. That is Celebrity Theaters. They make everything we do possible, guys. Don't forget to check out their weekly promotions at all their locations. Monday is Senior Savings Day, where it's $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday is Bargain Tuesday, where it's discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Wednesday is College Night, where they get admission for college students after 5 p.m. is $5. And of course, the Baton Rouge location have half-off arcades all day. Thursday at the Baton Rouge location is Thirsty Thursday, where you get discounted bar items. Of course, guys, Celebrity Theaters host 8 to 10 auditoriums, depending on the location, whether you're interested in hosting a birthday party or a private movie screening or a corporate meeting or whatever you want. They've got you taken care of with the perfect facility to meet your needs. They're proud to offer birthday packages for children of all ages. Let them handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to cleanup. For more information or to book your birthday party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or give them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. All righty. So, do I have any juicy comments before we get in? Because I'm about to
I was
start.
gonna say you're about to get going, and you're not gonna stop.
I'm about to just roll. Y'all know how I get. I just start talking. I won't shut up. All right. Why were we running Durham up the middle? When will Harold Perkins move to his correct position. Look, correct position with Harold Perkins is highly contested at this point. I'm not even sure I know what the correct position for him is. Durham up the middle. Yes, I think the rotation and who they pick for what situations is frustrating, but I must say his vision was awful for the night. Caden Durham, let's see, I've got my notes here. Caden Durham had 3 carries where he had an open lane and missed it, just didn't go for it. So he had opportunities to bounce it out and didn't. He's just a freshman.
He's a youngster. Like, it's going to take time to adjust to the game.
He's 18 years old, man. What were you doing at 18? I mean, kids make mistakes, but it's the coach's job to get it right. Music says, Nuss Boss. Hey, Music, let me tell you something. Nuss he's a surgeon. Dude was watching my film, rewatching it. Of course, my emphasis was the running game. He was surgical once again and gives LSU a chance to win every game, I think. Did you know Nussmeier is leading the country in touchdown passes?
He's cooking right now, man. Like, he has all the weapons. He doesn't even have Chris Hilton on the field right now, and he's still dominating. So, yeah, I've been nothing but impressed with Nussmeier. There's nothing more for me to say other than the fact that I double down on what you said, and that's he's been surgical. He's looked fantastic out there. So this weekend's going to be a telling sign for him, because during fall camp we kind of saw him struggle a little bit when there was pressure on him. So
yeah,
there's definitely going to be some heat coming on him when he's in Columbia this weekend. So this will be a telling sign of what Nussmeier is all about, and I have high expectations. I think he'll live up to them, but this will be the true kind of benchmark for him when he's going up against that really nice pass rush of South Carolina.
Yeah. Zach Caldwell says, "Go Cox," which I hope he's a South Carolina fan. Thank you for joining us. So he's got 8 touchdowns. He's tied for first. Do you know who he's tied with, if you had to guess?
Who is it?
Kyle McCord, hilariously. So Ohio State basically sent him packing, and he transfers to
They did him so dirty.
Oh, and it's funny. He's actually been playing better than Will Howard, who they took from Kansas State. So a little bit of a QB carousel there. And hilariously, now Kyle McCord looks like he's, at least to begin the season, getting the last laugh. We'll see. Ohio State's packed with tons of talent, so that laugh might not be the last laugh. I'm not going to put this on the screen, but we got more Gamecock fans in the chat saying not to talk trash. He didn't say the word trash. That's why I'm not putting it on the screen. But, South Carolina fans are generally not bad. Maybe they're bad. Women's basketball fans might drive you nuts from time to time. But the football fans, I've always, especially after that 2015 game, the way, LSU fans and South Carolina fans all embraced each other. I always thought they weren't bad. Okay, so tracking the runs, and I didn't do the final drive because it was garbage time. So this is every drive before the final drive. I saw one stacked box where it was 10 men near the goal line. So this whole situation of, hey, was it they run it? No, they weren't really running against a stacked box. It was just, for some reason or another, Nicholls State front 7 beating your front 7. So worth noting here, you didn't really run the ball very often. And oddly enough, situationally, it made sense a lot of times. This is going to be a pass-first offense, but situationally, it didn't really open itself to not pass the ball very frequently. But they only had 17 running back carries. And on those 17 running back carries, you had 47 yards. Oh, that's paltry. That's pitiful. 0 touchdowns, of course, on that. I saw 3 good runs on the night on 17 carries. Now, there's some that are like, okay, that's all right. Like, okay, if you run against a 10-man stock box and it's 2 yards for a touchdown, 1 yard for a first down, and you get 1.5 yards, it's going to get you an okay run. You know what I mean? There were some okay runs, but mostly it was either bad runs or some varying levels of bad. So in terms of who was the culprit, a lot of people are asking, is it your offensive line blocking or is it your running back running? What would you guess, Dak, if you had to say, was it running backs or is it offensive line blocking that's the bigger problem?
I'd probably say it's a combination of both, not to be a kind of picking both sides, but we've seen some struggles with Will Campbell over the first couple of weeks. He's like pulling, and it just isn't he just isn't looking the part right now, and he's going to hit his stride sooner rather than later. And then seen a lot of running backs kind of miss the holes and not living up to their end of the bargain too. So for me, I'm going to say it's a little bit of both. I can't necessarily pinpoint just one, which isn't a good answer, but my answer.
Okay, but which one would you say is slightly bigger then? How about that?
Look, I'm gonna blame the offensive line when I shouldn't, but I'm gonna blame the offensive line just because the expectations are so high, and I don't think they're living up to that Joe Moore Award finalist type of O line right now.
Yeah. Offensive line or blocking, I should say, not just offensive line. Hey, Mason Taylor was really bad at missing blocks. It's surprising. It's the guys you're hyping up, not like, you think, okay, DJ Chester, the new guy in there. Okay, well, it's obviously him, right? Or maybe one of the guards. Not really. It's mostly your star players. So on the plays I tracked, which I tracked 1, 2, 3, 11, 15 of the 17 runs, because I didn't track the final runs there. 8 were a blocking issue. Now, you can have multiple issues on one play. It can be both the running back and the offensive line blocking. So it's not to say each one of these is a play, but 8 issues of bad blocking, 4 issues of the running back not taking advantage of their lane. So mostly it is your blocking that is the problem. Now, in terms of whether it was a bad block or if it was like a bad block, meaning like your guy's blocking and he gets blown up, versus a missed assignment, of those I noticed 4 bad blocks and 5 just whiffs. 5 times where you missed it, right? So, of course, sometimes these can be both. So sometimes these numbers don't add up too perfectly. Sometimes you miss a block and then you finally get to them and you get blown up. So sometimes it's both. Oh boy, the biggest culprits. Will Campbell, 2 bad pulls on Will Campbell. And there was another play where it was either him or Mason Taylor who forgot to block the defensive end. And I even tweeted a picture of this out on Twitter.
I was going to pull that up because I was talking about
that. I'm pretty sure it was Mason Taylor's assignment based on what I know of blocking schemes. Pretty sure that was a Mason Taylor, but especially because Mason Taylor doesn't even go to the back. It just didn't make sense to me what was going on there. So I think it was Mason Taylor. That's who I'm blaming at least, but it could have been Will Campbell. But Will Campbell on his bowling, he's just not fundamentally sound. He's taking wide pulls where he actually ran into the running back on one of his pulls, which is just, that should not happen, man. You're supposed to be running tight to the line of scrimmage. And I double check most of the time when you're pulling offensive lineman is pulling out and hit your running back, it's because, well, your center got blown up or your guard got blown up and he has to do it. Whereas notably, by the way, last time I had to do a deep dive in the offensive line, it's been since 2021 since I had to do a big dive because they have been pretty good for the last couple of years. Last time I was doing this, it was like 2 offensive linemen got blown up so bad your pulling guard couldn't get over to make his block because he literally got cogged down in traffic. So it's not that bad. Okay, let's make a big distinction. There's a huge difference between your guard, your pulling lineman can't get over there because the guys got blown up. That's bad. And your guy took a wide pull. Like, you can tighten up some footwork. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
So, like, there's levels to this. And this is, like, the lower level of, like, okay, this can be straightened out. Let's see here. Is someone talking about dumpster? Let's see. USC with a dumpster. Okay, all right, never mind. I was like, is someone talking about a dumpster fire in the chat? I was like, what is going on here? Anyways, Mason Taylor whiffed on 3 blocks. Either missed his assignment, got blown up, whatever. And it's sad because there were some plays where it was like, dang, he's driving them downfield. He missed on 3. Cade Durham, 3 plays where he had a lane and didn't take it. Caleb Jackson also missed a lane where he just ran straight into defenders instead of going upfield. DJ Chester actually got blown up twice off the ball. That is a little concerning. That, like, okay, when your guy is literally getting blown up off the ball against Nicholls, that makes you wonder. And that's your starting center. That's one of those like, hey, raise the red flag, man, because I mean, you really just got to make that block. I mean, you were there, you hit him, he just blew you up. That caused a couple misses. Trades Green, boneheaded play where it was a run up the middle. Might have been that. Anyways, it was a run up the middle near the goal, and he basically there's like a blitzing backer who's clearly coming off the edge, and he just goes into the middle for more support. He helps out on a double team and lets a guy come unimpeded to just nail Caden Durham. So Emory Jones missed the block. Emory Jones, that's one. And Miles Frazier missed one. So basically every offensive lineman out there missed something somewhere. But overall, I think there's some concerning areas with this team. I don't think there's any just alarmingly bad red flags. And Zach, I just want to know, like, is this kind of the consensus you've gotten from your film where it's like these are rectifiable issues, or was there anything that was severely concerning for you?
I look at it, I kind of take it with a grain of salt so far with 2 weeks, only because you were without Garrett Dellinger last week. And look, there's a lack of continuity with Tyree Adams being thrown in the mix. Obviously, he's your sixth man, so there's room for improvement there. But I just think that I trust in what Brad Davis is doing. I think this week, again, look, I've said it a couple times. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really do think this Saturday is going to be the telling sign of what the team's all about. And I know Will Campbell's MO. I know what Emory Jones is all about. Like, these are this is the top tackle duo in America, and I really think that they're going to have to come up and play because the edge rushers are fantastic for South Carolina. So this week's going to be the telling sign for me. So yes, to answer your question, it is. There's a chance for them to improve. Obviously, they will improve. I believe Will Campbell. I believe in what he brings to the table. Same thing goes for Emory Jones. And then you got two guys on the interior in Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier who are seasoned vets in the game who are very talented. DJ Chester's the only question mark for me just because there's no experience. But ultimately, look, I think this group's going to hit their stride sooner rather than later. They didn't jump out the gate as quickly as they wanted to, but there's a lot of new pieces being moved around here. Will Campbell's not used to pulling. He's not used to leading. I really do think that it's going to be Bryce in the comments.
I'm going to pull him up in a second. I'm going to pull him up.
I really do think that there's a chance that this group can hit their stride sooner rather than later, and it's this weekend or bust for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think another element to that is Joe Sloan is learning still. Joe Sloan is learning how to call plays with his team that he has, not that, is perfect or ideal. Dude, I just want to say your cup is tripping me out because it's like it's temperate, and every time it, like that blue line lowers. Anyways, and things like you should probably be able to recognize that, hey, some offensive tackles aren't great pullers. In fact, I know it's more common nowadays to get all offensive tackles to pull, but it used to be guards were your only guys pulling. You weren't running too many counter trays unless you really needed one. You're just going to run a typical counter where it's just your guard pulling, right? Or a trap or a wham. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's much more common where they're like, nah, big boy, get out there. But it's like, I think Will Campbell is probably not. The other thing about it is one time it was a technique. The other time it was just slow.
Well, I'll ask you this. Do you think that Joe Sloan needs to change the approach, or do you think they need to continue to try to get this train moving along and try to get Will Campbell and et cetera up to speed with pulling in this new technique that they're going about?
I think that you clearly have a discipline issue on this team. Your tight ends, your offensive line, and everybody blocking has an issue with discipline and knowing their assignment and executing their assignment. I think you need to go with a much more simple running attack. I think it's too complicated. I think you're doing too much. I will say this. I do like the way they manufacture it with some like jet sweep passes and stuff like that. Some little bubble screen type action. They need more of that, in my opinion. But I think it's too complicated of a running blocking scheme, and guys are missing it. And a lot of freshmen are making freshman mistakes. I mean, think about the young players I named here who are making mistakes. Trades Green, DJ Chester, Caden Durham. You know what I mean? That doesn't make an excuse and say it doesn't mean the veteran guys are also doing it. But I just think that you have to look at your weaknesses. Part of being successful is looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I am not good at this. Let's do that to
Well, that's why
accommodate
I
for this
asked, because
weakness.
like at some point, do you kind of draw away from the fact that this isn't going to be what your bread and butter is going to be? What a lot of people thought that it really was going to be. Will Campbell hyped it up. Will Campbell was like, "We're going to run the ball, and you only have one option, that's to stop it." When we really haven't even gotten the opportunity to see this running game hit its stride. So, like you said, do you steer away from it and kind of go inside, or do you continue to go
Right.
about that approach?
Right. We're gonna take a little side. Bryce Coon. Is any of your info?
Bryce is not a troll. Bryce is just making fun of somebody that will.
I'm not
we'll
going to
discuss
touch the
later.
drama. But are you a poser like me? Is Bryce Coon a poser?
Bryce Coon is not a poser, but some people think he is.
All right, Bryce Coon's obviously LSU beat writer for 247 Sports. Go 247 over there, and we're a competing site with them. But I'll say this: he's not a poser. He vets his sources very seriously. There's a lot of situations where there's a lot of people reporting things, and you have a due diligence as a reporter to make sure what you're putting out there is legitimate from strong sources. And I think that Bryce Coon does a pretty good job of that. So, someone called him a troll. All right, Bryce is kind of a troll, though, if we're being honest. He sometimes is a troll. But, okay, just say it. Look, I'm saying you're a legitimate reporter. I'm not saying you're not a moron. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, man. I'm just kidding. I tease with Bryce. He's a good guy, man. But anyways, back to this here running game. Yes, I think part of the solution is embrace that you are a pass heavy. He's cracking me up with the comments. He says he doesn't even like himself. Embrace that you're a pass heavy team. Okay. Embrace that you're going to run to keep them honest, and in situations where you need. I think that you also need to stop getting cute with it. Simplify the running game. Iron out your blocking. I think if you had just made a few, one or two extra blocks in spots, right? I think that you have a respectable running game against Nicholls. Because, I think about Caden Durham in space. If they had just got that one defensive end block, they had a toss sweep called, and it was just there. And I'm thinking how fast that kid is. Then the receivers were blocking downfield. Mason Taylor just let the guy run right past him. I don't know what he's thinking. He's a veteran at this point. I don't know what you're thinking when you see a DN just blitz right past you. I guess he thought he couldn't make the play or whatever, but at least chip him. If you get an elbow into that guy and bump him off, we're talking about a great run. Instead, you're
to kind of stay on the run game troubles. Can we talk a little bit about Juwan Johnson? Just the opportunity that presented to him. Obviously, he didn't really do anything in the backfield,
right.
But having a running back who's so versatile like that, obviously switching from defensive back to running back, 72 hours roughly before you kick off, kind of give or take a few. Can you talk about how impressive he was? Just kind of being just a versatile weapon. 3 catches, only 16 yards, but he got a touchdown.
By the way, two Louisiana football teams with Juwan Johnson's catching touchdown this weekend. How about that?
Yep.
Very impressive for him considering it was 72 hours. Now they clearly were protecting him. They didn't want him running the ball.
Yeah.
They didn't give him a carry, but part of that was because really nobody got a carry. We're talking about 17 running back runs. Your longest run of the day was Nussmeier, by the way, tied with Caleb. I'm sorry, Josh Williams.
Yeah.
Just not a great day. It's a little bit of an embarrassing day, but very impressive. I keep on looking at that one, and I'm like, that one might be a blessing in disguise for you. You might look up years from now and be like, man, they almost played Juwan Johnson at DB.
It's interesting for me. He put on so much size. He's already put on roughly 15 pounds since he got to campus. He's weighing in over 200. He looks the part. He fills out his jersey. He looks great. I'm intrigued to see what kind of he brings to the table against a more stout opponent. But we'll see how much he gets on the field this season. He might end up redshirting, but there's some improvements there. I love what Juwan Johnson's bringing right now.
Randall Alfrecht running the game from shotgun is so soft. Should LSU go under center?
Good question. It's a good question. I'll probably say no, just because the run blocking hasn't been superior in itself. So more time or less time, the better.
I think it's something you should consider. particularly when I keep on telling you about having a simplified running approach, the angles and the momentum and the ability to be dynamic without being chunky. Like one of the things about that toss sweep is they tossed it to the running back side. So the running back is literally running away from the quarterback, waiting to catch it, catches it, stops his momentum, and then goes out. Part of that is just it's not a very swiftly done play where if a quarterback's under center and he's tossing it back to the running back, he's got more momentum and can get wider quicker. You know what I'm saying? So a little bit of that is just the dynamic abilities to do different things with the same formation. I'd like to see some pistol, maybe even, which the problem with doing under center is you got to like commit to the bit. You know what I mean? You got to practice that because if your whole offense is under, a shotgun snap, all of a sudden going under center, I'm just saying that center exchange can be risky, man. So, but I don't see how you look at 17 carries for 47 yards and you don't look yourself in the mirror, right?
Against an
Nicholls.
inferior opponent in Nicholls State, of course. I mean, look, obviously Southland champs last year and whatnot. It's a formidable team, but to do that against a Nicholls State team is obviously worrisome, to say the least.
Very, very worrisome. Very worrisome, but I think
keep it PG, and I'll just say worrisome. But yeah, look, that's something that if you, obviously you want to be a pass-heavy team, you have Garrett Nussmeier, you have a gunslinger, you have somebody who can get you up and down the field through the passing game, but you can't be one-dimensional. And now it's all about trying to add that piece to your playbook. Joe Sloan's proven that he does have kind of a creative playbook when he wants to utilize it. And now, look, SEC play starts now. You can't look back anymore, and the opportunities is now. You go to Columbia, you face a really, really talented team. You're going to have to give them different looks. The run game's going to have to come to life. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, etc., are really going to have to like step up to the plate. So they have an opportunity, but it's kind of like you got to go now. Really
and make no mistake, South Carolina can run the ball. Lenore Sellers, that dude can book it, man.
No doubt, he's dynamic. He's as dynamic as they come.
What's the freshman defense? Is it Stewart? Dylan Stewart? That's right. Okay. Dylan Stewart is a freak.
Yeah.
Defensive end for South Carolina. So you're going to have your work cut out for him too. I think you're going to have to keep on wheeling and dealing. You're going to have to, embrace the air raid, embrace your inner Mike Leach, but also do some things differently to try to get this running game. If this running game continues to be choppy and you cannot rely on yourself getting 3 yards, you're never going to move the ball with consistency. You're going to make some big plays here and there, but you're going to be looking at your drives and you're just like, why are we? And it's because you're getting your opponent's holding the ball longer than you. It's because incompletions get you 0 yards, and it's hard to put yourself in manageable down situations.
That's a fantastic point. Not to interrupt, but what you're saying, there's so much like factual evidence to that. We saw that with Nicholls. They had back-to-back 13-play, 7-minute drives that they went and got touchdowns on that just chewed the clock, won the time possession, and it made it a manageable game going into halftime down 23-14. They bounced back in the second half, scored a touchdown, and make it 23-21 or whatever. I mean, look, this is not rocket science. You have to run the ball to control the time possession, especially in SEC play. So to what you're saying, no doubt, man. Like you got to get this run game flowing. And Bryce has got I'm looking at the comment. Preston's got all the notes. I mean, you got to eventually just get things going here. And I think they will sooner rather than later. I've said it a couple times, and you just got to believe in what Will Campbell can do and Emory Jones as well.
I think that there's a lot of good players that aren't playing great right now. And that's kind of why I have optimism. That being said, I mean, you've got to iron these things out, man. You got to. When you can't run the ball with consistency, there's 2 situations that really makes your offense clunky. Number 1, setting yourselves up with manageable downs and distances. 2nd and 3rd and 10 is not where you want to be operating out of your offense, where you require some elite downfield passing from your quarterback. Okay. Number 2 is converting short yardage situations. 3rd and 2, you want to be able to get that almost automatically. Okay. So those are the 2 things you're not getting out of this offense. And you're looking up and like, you realize Nussmeier's thrown for 1,000 yards in 3 starts.
Look, he's putting up insane numbers like this. He's playing fantastic ball. And that's why, I hate to just sound like a broken record over and over again, but that's why you just got to find more diversity in the playbook, because
You do.
eventually, look, his numbers are great now, but when you become a one-dimensional program and you're continuing to pass, credit Mike Leach for the air raid game, but when you're a program like LSU, you have to have versatility here. You have the running back talent. It's just a matter of getting it gelling and rolling. And I think they will. I've said it a bunch of times. I really hope that they can get it going so I don't sound like a fool.
Yeah, well, me too here. I think the offense has been good when it needs to be great or bordering on elite, and I think the defense has been average when it needs to start knocking on the door of being good. I think that's kind of where things are with them. They're going to have definitely a good challenge for them. I like this challenge where it comes up. It's a good spot on the schedule for LSU early on to get a good, strong test, but not something that's insurmountable. I feel like going to Georgia this weekend would be a rough task for this team that's trying to find its identity. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show tonight, please smack that like button for me so we get more likes than Mike Scarborough. Of course, it helps our analytics for rewatches and that kind of stuff. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to share it and put it out for your friends. You can keep up with Zack Nagy at ZNagy20, where he puts out all his reports and links to his work. It's really analytical. It's a good stuff. It's a good follow, legitimately good follow if y'all haven't followed him already. He uses great sources for all of his information. Appreciate that. Maybe Bryce should learn a little bit from your sourcing. But anyways, you can follow me on Twitter at pguy77. We will see y'all on Saturday night after the game. I think Mike, let me double check here. I think his show is going to be pushed off till, let's see here. Okay. So because of the hurricane, Mike and Buddy might not be able to do their show on Wednesday. We'll keep an eye out for that. If not, they'll go Thursday or whenever they can go. So everybody, please stay safe with this hurricane. Please don't overlook it and not take it seriously. Please make your preparations and stay safe. I want to see all my BFFs for next week. We'll see y'all then, guys. Appreciate it.